So this is our boss for the first woods area of the game, and it's a giant bat creature, and he's got a bunch of different abilities that we want him to have in the final version. So a couple of them I've already got a basic rundown of, which we could see if I fire up the playtest. Let's just have a quick look. So that's not correct. Let's see if that fixes it. Okay, name comes up. Updating spawn position. Promising. Aha! Okay. Alright, now I can actually show you guys the boss. So he spits out poison. He summons... I need to mute this audio, holy crap. He summons bats. He bites you. Let's just wait for his cooldowns. So because he doesn't have all his abilities just yet, a lot of his stuff is on cooldown when he should be doing other abilities. So this is the poison spit. Ooh, man, he hurts too. He should do a scream now, I think. Oh man. Okay, so that's the scream, that summons the bats. So what we want to do is we want to add another ability, a new ability where oh man, he's so hard. He's like way too hard. We want to make an ability where he takes off. He starts flying, so he'll like leave the ground, he'll leave the play space, and am I doing 0 damage to it? That was really weird. Yeah, what the hell? Man, that's really strange. Oh, he still did his ability even though he's stunned. Oh man, we're gonna die. Yeah, I'm getting distracted. We want him to take off, so he'll play an animation, and then he'll be in the air for a while, and he will basically drop stuff on the battlefield. So I think it'll mainly be rocks. He'll drop a whole bunch of rocks the player has to avoid, and then he'll drop a wagon that he's picked up, and the wagon will have items in it, like health potions and that kind of thing, to help the player survive. So in order to get this guy to fly, we need to give him an ability. So the way agents are constructed in this code base is they have these ability behaviors, and the AI, wherever it is, AI character controller, it has like a list of the abilities here, and it will basically look for ones that are on cooldown that can be used. So some of them need targets and that kind of thing, and there's rules for what can be targeted. And as long as those rules are satisfied, it will use the ability, and then it will put it on cooldown. So in order to get him to take off, we need to make a new ability. So he's currently got his spawn ability, that's what spawns the bats. And he's got his breath ability, which does the poison spit. So we want to add a flying ability. So if I go back to this, I think I'm actually going to rename that. Alright, we need to change this. So this is going to be our takeoff ability. And usually what I do when I'm making a new ability in the game is I basically just copy paste some other abilities code that I know works. And there's a lot of abilities. So maybe we will do charge. So we need to inherit from ability. That's a good start. Let's get rid of this default stuff. We need to have an execute function, okay. So yeah, it's pretty simple. It's just when the ability is going to get used, the execute function will get called by whatever controller is controlling this ability. So how do we want this to work? Let's just write out some pseudocode. We want it to play the takeoff animation. We then want it to periodically drop. Yeah, okay, this is interesting. Periodically drop debris in an area. Well, what we might be able to do is just drop it on a player, on a random enemy, random nearby enemy. Because we might want to potentially reuse this for another enemy later on that's not a boss, or yeah, that would be kind of funny. Have these enemies that take off and drop stuff. It does that, and then it lands. We play the. Well, actually, no. This is wrong. What we want to do is trigger a takeoff action. A landing action. So this is a little bit complicated. This is probably one of the most complicated abilities that the game will have. It's going to test our ability system a bit because it happens over a long period of time, whereas most abilities happen basically straight away. Like the player presses an attack button and it, plays an animation, and then that's basically it. Whereas this is going to be like a good, 10-15 seconds of it flying around. So yeah, it's going to be a bit tricky. So the actions, everything that happens in the game is done, well, ideally anyway. Everything the agents do is done through this action system. And the reason I did that is so that all actions are atomic, and you can't have simultaneous actions. There's a single action queue that agents process. They pick the first thing off the queue, they do that action. When that action's done, they pick the next thing off the queue and they do that action. So you can never get in weird mixed states where it tries to do like 3 things at the same time and they all interrupt each other, and it puts the agent in a broken state where all the variables are in these completely scrambled settings. So yeah, we have to wrap whatever we want to do in actions, special action classes. So I've already created, let's get rid of some of these files we don't need. I've already created a takeoff action, which I've just copy pasted from another action, and I've created a land action. And I think we're going to need an update function because this is going to be happening over time, this thing. Well, actually, I almost violated my rule. We're supposed to wrap everything in an action. So we're actually supposed to queue a flying. Let's call it a, what are we going to call this? Flying bombardment action, I guess. And then queue a landing action. So these are going to get all added to the queue. But the weird thing is normally actions expire. We need these to not expire, that it's queued up for a really long period of time. So what we might want to do is go look at our base action. Oh yeah, I see timed action. Expiry time, time to live. Okay, so as long as they're not timed actions, they won't expire. So a land action is a base action, a takeoff action is a base action. So this could, generally any of the AI actions we don't want to be timed. The only reason we've got timed actions is if the player presses heaps of buttons, so they're just like mashing the controller. We don't want it to queue up like 50 actions in the queue and then they all play out. We want them, if I press, attack, 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 it's going to start doing the first attack and then the other ones in the background are just going to expire because they've been queued up while that original attack's going. And then once that ends, if the player's still mashing, it'll keep filling the queue up. So it'll grab the next one and it'll start running that. So it just it stops the player mashing and just locking their character in like an infinite, replay of all the buttons they've pressed. So it's not as important for AI. I mean, AI can technically do the same kind of thing where it'll trigger, it'll queue up like tons and tons of actions. But that's only going to be like the first action really of the ability. Like if it keeps calling this execute ability, then it could theoretically like keep adding these to the queue. So probably what we're going to need is an is executing bool just to gatekeep that. So we'll need to do that, and then we'll need to clean that up as well. So is ready, activate, is activated. Where's this used? We might already have the ability we need actually. Oh yeah, because if it's not ready, so I think we're actually already taking care of that. So let's just see if that system's sufficient to gatekeep. It should be. So we're going to have takeoff action, takeoff. Just need takeoff action. And we've got some things that probably don't make sense, but we'll pass in game object. There's not going to be a target. Duration, we might need to pass in. This is going to be the animation duration. Let's clean up this stuff. Don't need this. I think this is based off the stun action, so is expired. We don't need that. Is complete. Do we need that? Yes, we do. I'll just default that to true. Okay. Don't know if we're going to need that combatant. Okay, this is just our basic sort of template for an action. So let's get the same thing for our land action. Okay. Takeoff animation duration. Land action. Whoops. Okay. So if we just have it like that, we should be able to get it to trigger the animations. You know, once we actually put stuff in these actions. But all this ability is going to do is trigger these actions. So what we might want to do is landing on, kind of wish there was an on end, but on success. Handle landing success. Let's make a new I think we get the action as a parameter. Landing action. Finish ability. So when they finish landing, it should finish ability. A finish ability will expend charge, which will trigger the cooldown. It will make activated false. Yeah, I think that's the basic framework of our taking off ability. So if we look at these guys, what we're going to need is to trigger the animation. So we're going to need a takeoff animation trigger. We could probably just call this animation trigger, to be perfectly honest. Pass that in our constructor. So animation trigger equals animation trigger. We're also going to need our animator. Oh man, what the hell am I doing? Okay, component, animator. Then we should be able to do anim.setTrigger, animation trigger, and that should make the animation play. So I believe what these functions are is begin happens once at the start, execute happens every frame, so it's ongoing, and end happens once at the end. So all we need to do is trigger the animation. We don't need to really do anything else. I mean, there's other stuff obviously we need to do. We need to like hide the monster and make it not collidable, and yeah, like we need to remove it from the battlefield basically without destroying it. So that's going to be a weird thing to figure out. That could potentially be a big hassle, because there's stuff like there's the nav mesh agent, right, which affects pathing and yeah, all the targeting systems. It's going to have a lot of different renderers, so it might be hard to hide them all. I do think I have a hideable behavior that manages that though, which would be nice. But we've got that. Oh, I think we might even have an animation action. Maybe. I know we have an animation ability. Take off animation duration. Okay, we're going to need to have take off animation trigger. Landing animation trigger. Oh man, I can't type. Man, this is like identical. I'm just gonna... kind of violating the dry principle here, but... that's fine. They'll be massively diversified once we start doing the, you know, removing the object from the battlefield and then adding it back in when they land. So it'll make a bit more sense as we progress. But we've got this. So now, what we want to do, should compile. Yep. Let's look at our animation controller. I'm so glad they added the ability to zoom to this. Looks like we've already got a takeoff and a landing. So let's have a look at that. Yep. Landing. Preview source state. Let's do takeoff maybe. Oh man, that's super weird. Yeah. So ideally this should be what's happening. So our triggers, conditions, landing, conditions, takeoff. So these are triggers, landing, takeoff. I'm going to rename this. I really need to be consistent with this. Take off. So what we should be able to do, theoretically, fingers crossed, is add our ability. Takeoff ability. Let's just drag it up. So it's with the others. So I've got a spawn ability, breath ability, and takeoff ability. Cooldown duration. Something. So the takeoff animation trigger is takeoff. Landing animation trigger is landing. Let's just say 5 seconds, which is a really long time. Yeah. Oh, there's one very important thing we need to do, which is actually add these actions to the action controller. Action controller. Action control. We might actually already be doing this in the base class. No? Okay. Oops. Okay. So we've got our action controller. Add action to back. Yes. So this is the tricky thing. Yeah, man, this is quite tricky. Because I think what we want to do, add action to back, take off, action to back, landing. Can we remove actions? Yeah, we can. Yeah, man, this is starting to get a bit. This could just be a problem where, for whatever reason, our takeoff action gets cancelled, and we still have the landing action in the queue. It's just all of a sudden going to land out of nowhere. Like that's not really what we want. We actually need to have the only way I can see it doing this is, well, there's other ways, but what if we just do on fail we make a new delegate. Let's just call it A. I think it needs to have this. I can never remember the inline delegate syntax. Action control, remove action, landing. I think that'll work. It's a little bit of a brain bender, but basically if for whatever reason our takeoff fails, so the main reason that'll happen is if it expires in the queue, because I want to make the takeoff action a timed action. If it fails for whatever reason, so what might happen is it might queue up to take off, and then like the enemy dies or the enemy gets stunned or something like that. In which case the takeoff now gets delayed and then it expires. We need to remove the landing action from the queue because it no longer matches up with the takeoff. The other way we could do it is have the landing track the takeoff. No, let's just try this. This should be fine, I think. Let's just group these handlers together. The other way we could do this as well, actually, is we could not add the landing action until the takeoff action has succeeded. That's probably a better way to do it. I think that's a better way to do it. Yeah, we should do that. This is bad. Let's not do this. So what we want to do is handle takeoff success. Just do that. Don't need these comments. Who needs comments? That's what the video is for. I could just go back and watch the video and know exactly why I was doing something. Yeah, so this is much better, way better. So we will add the takeoff action and then takeoff on success, handle takeoff success. So if takeoff is successful, we will create a landing action. And then if that's successful, we finish the ability. It has to be successful. This is almost like an immutable action. We would probably also add our bombardment ability here because we don't want to start bombarding unless we successfully take off. So that'll play that. It'll succeed. Man, let's just see what happens. Curious to see if it works. It's still going to be weird, like he's still going to move around and stuff. Actually, what we might be able to do in our takeoff action is if we get the I think it's a character mover. Actor, get component. Move it dot, oh man, what's it called? It's been halt. So we can tell it's not allowed to move because it's flying. Whoops. And then we can, I mean, we're just using a string literal here, which is a bit wrong, but whatever. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. And then we can unhalt, I believe, something. Oh, we don't have mover defined here. Just going to do this. Something like that. So we'll unhalt it. Actually, we don't want to do that until the animation's finished. So maybe we want it at the end. Okay, so now he shouldn't move while he's in the air. That's sort of the start of our code for disabling him as a battlefield entity. All right, let's see how broken it is. Okay, he's going to summon the thing, he's going to breath attack. He's going to come over and bite. We might actually want to do some debug readout. We shouldn't stun him because then he can't do anything. Okay, well, he's definitely not taking off. Let's see if we got any errors. No. I mean, no more errors than normal. There's way too many errors. Takeoff ability. Add action to back takeoff. Takeoff action. Set trigger. A trigger is takeoff, right? Yeah. We go into our animator. Takeoff, that's correct. Let's just check these settings. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to put debug everywhere. So debug Oh, hang on, yes, complaint. Okay. I think we need to actually use the duration stuff, because it's just assuming it's completed. Oh man, we're repeating ourselves a fair bit here. There really should be an animation action that models this stuff. Well, he's not taking off. Charged. Oh, I think that's the player charge. Oh, you know what? I'm an idiot. We didn't add the ability to the AI. We've got to add it. Okay, well, he's still not doing it. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is disable his other abilities. Takeoff, landing, definitely correct. Okay. So it technically executed then. It says it did. But it didn't execute the action. So you know what? Maybe we shouldn't make this a. Oh, I think I know what it is. Um, Time to live. Oh, I've like mangled the syntax. There we go. Okay, it's gonna work. It's gonna work, guys. Did you see that? Did you see the shadows? Boom. Okay. Okay. So we can still target him. Whoa. Okay. We can push him around. So we have the beginnings of this. I think the next step, we need to look at doing all the disabling stuff. Let's get rid of the debug. Okay, so now we can almost focus exclusively on these actions. So we want to halt. What are some other things we need to do? We need to disable the colliders. We need to disable the nav mesh agent. We need to disable, we need to hide the model. Okay. Now I believe there is a hideable behavior. Takeoff ability, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we do have hideable. Because we use it for the traps. The traps are hidden. Is hidden. Hide, show. Yeah. It's designed exactly for this purpose. So we need to add hideable to our monster. Okay. So that should just be hideable dot hide. And landing will be hideable dot show. That's one thing. Colliders. So it's got a capsule collider. It's also got a character controller. And it has a nav mesh agent. Probably help if I told it what I wanted. Disable gliders. Okay. I have no idea how badly this is gonna like break it. Should be fine. Now here's a tricky thing. Do we enable the collider as it's landing? No. No. This is going to be, I mean, we could make it like crushes stuff that it lands on, which is pretty damn cool. This is going to be pretty cool because we're going to need to make like a telegraph system that warns you where stuff's going to land, because he's going to be bombarding the ground with these rocks, and then he's also going to be landing in places, so it needs to come up with like a big warning where something's going to hit so the players actually can react to it. And that's going to be crazy. Like, we can reuse that for so much stuff in the game. Like, basically every boss is going to use that. And then there's traps as well, like falling rocks trap. The players will like step on a trigger, and then they'll get like a very quick warning that something's going to happen, so they can try and get out of the way. So we do that, and then the other thing we want to do is the nav mesh agent. Hang on. No. We need to get the namespace. AI, I think. Just agent. Nav mesh. Nave mesh agent. Oops, that's not what we want. Oh, what have I done? Okay, cool. Let's just keep repeating ourselves. This is getting worse and worse. Okay, navmesh agent dot false, I guess. Do we need the? Don't think it matters what order I do this in. This needs to be true. The other thing we need to do is make him not targetable. Oh man, okay, targetable. So normally how that works in the system at the moment is they're categorized as cloaked. Hideable, if hideable equals null. Is cloaked. No detectors. Is there a can be detected? Is detectable. Hmm. Targetable. Hittable. And then I think combatant. Oh my god. Is targetable, yeah. Okay. So what we might want to do is actually have our targetable and then what we'll do is instead of doing hideable, the targetable dot is detectable equals false. We're going to need to remember what it is because there might be no, hang on. Initially is detectable. Initially is detectable equals. This kind of sucks. We have a lot of systems interacting with this. They might get in a broken state. So it's not detectable. And it's cloaked. Actually, we need to tell it cloak. And then in our landing action, we will see, this is weird because we want to show it before they can target it. I don't like this. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. We're going to do hideable dot hide, and we're going to do targetable dot can be. We need like an override for targetable. Man, how do I do this? Is disabled. Let's just do is untargetable. So the targetable is untargetable. It's a little bit stupid, but then we can do can be targeted by if is untargetable, return false. So it's just an override. Targetable is untargetable equals true. And then in here, we show it as it lands, and then once it's landed, it becomes targetable. Targetable. Put this here. Like that. Targetable is untargetable equals false. A little bit like clunky wording wise, but conceptually it's not too bad. Just because we need to break up this, we don't need it to interact with the cloaking system. That's actually undesirable. Okay, so in theory, what should happen now is when it takes off, it goes invisible, it becomes untargetable, and we can't collide with it. In theory. Is it going to work? So it should already be in the air. Well, doesn't look like... Oh! Hey! Okay, it looks like the collider is not working. We can target him again though. So what I think is happening is we're not setting the colliders, possibly. There was a bunch of stuff happening with man, the Navmesh agent did not like getting disabled. So he's in the app. Let's just have a look what's going on here. So the character control is disabled, the capsule collider is disabled, and the Navmesh agent is disabled. We are getting problems with the AI because it's disabled, the agent. But he's about to land. So now, notice that our colliders are still, everything's still disabled. So I think I know what's happening. I bet you, if we look at this, for a split second they were enabled and then he started taking off again. Wait, what? Oh, there's like no takeoff animation? Yeah. Because we're hiding immediately, which we don't want to do. We actually want to do that down here. Let's just disable this Navmesh agent thing at the moment. So the issue is the action is set to take 5 seconds. So it doesn't end until the 5 seconds is up. So the collider doesn't get turned on for ages. So there's a couple of ways we can fix that. We could change the time to be basically exactly as long as the animation length, or we could use animation events to do it. And animation events is the most flexible, and it's going to give the best visual result, I think. We don't have to keep going and tweaking it if we change the animation or whatever. And I've already set up animations as well. So we go to our animator and we look at takeoff. We go to here. We go in animations. And we look at events. We've got takeoff flap and takeoff end. Flap, takeoff end. Okay. Will get called. And once again, I haven't done this capitalized O, which is really bad. Apply that. Yep, and then landing, we should have some similar stuff. So we've got landing touch, boom. That's when the feet hit the ground. And then wings touch, I believe. Landing wing touch, landing touch. Okay. So basically right when doof, doof. So probably what would make sense? Probably landing wing touch will turn the colliders back on. Landing touch, we'll do landing touch. So how that's going to work is we need to listen for these events. Ability. I think the most correct way to do it is to actually set up some events here. So public event. I think they're basic events. Maybe game object. We'll do the ability. So on takeoff end, and on takeoff animation flap. On landing animation touch. Landing animation wing touch. These won't be public actually. Void. So what were they? Oh man. Takeoff. These should actually be prefixed with anim. This is the naming convention I got. Takeoff and let's go in and fix that right now. Oh man, takes so long. Oh, and it resets everything. That's cool. Like completely resets it. So we need to just prefix this because otherwise you're going to just get clashes with naming of functions potentially. So anim landing wing touch, anim landing touch. And takeoff. Uh-oh. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I thought it had wiped our things then. Anim takeoff flap. Anim takeoff end. Oh, we're looking good. We're starting to look really, really nice here. So anim takeoff end. Of flap. Touch and what am I doing? No, auto completes brutal. wing touch. I think it was called. Oh god, it's gonna have to reset the whole interface. Oh. Okay. Landing. God, that gets me every time. Events. Anim landing wing touch. Anim landing wing touch. Okay, good. So we've got these animation events set up. Now we can just basically convert them into C# events. On takeoff animation flap is not equal to null. On takeoff animation flap this. On takeoff animation end. So I found this is a nice way to handle animation events in your code, because if you just do these voids all over your code base for wherever you, one, it's only going to get called on the game object that the animation's playing on. And two, like it gets really hard to track state. Like for instance, we only want to listen to these animation events if this ability is currently active, which means now I've got to have like checks here and blah blah blah. What I found was it's much smarter to just create C# events that link up to those animation events, and then we can just do stuff like make our actions listen to these events. So now we're only going to get code executing for animation events if we have an action, and the action's only going to happen if the ability's currently active. So it ends up being a lot more, because we're linking it to our action system, and our action system is so controlled in, like, there's only ever one action executing for the ability, and they can't overlap, and they get cancelled, you know, by stuns and stuff like that. It means we can't have any weird animation glitches, which is like, think about stuff like cancelling animations. So if I press a button on the controller and I start some ability that has quite a long animation, and then while that's playing, maybe I press another button on the controller, and they both have the same animation event that they're listening to. Now both abilities events will trigger when that animation event fires off, so you could cancel animations into different effects and do all kinds of really weird stuff. So we don't want to do that. So it's much better to basically convert our animation event into a C# event and then have the appropriate actions listen to those events. Alright, now that I've gone on that big tirade, let's go back to what I was actually doing, which is finishing up these events on Okay, so we've got our 4 events. So now we can make them listen. We only want to make them listen once the action started. So when it starts, is that right? Let's think about this. Because that means we'll need to know about the ability in the action, which is fine, I guess. Yeah, I guess that's... I mean, we have to because we need to listen to the event. Yeah, okay. So, off ability. I mean, the alternative is we... Oh man, there's a couple of ways to do this. How do we want to link these things together? Yep, I think the most correct way to do it is to link it up in the action. So we're going to have our takeoff ability. Ability. We will pass that in. This is really weird. I don't think I've done this anywhere else in the code, which has sort of got me a little bit worried. But then again, as I said, this is a very different action. It goes for a very long time, and yeah, so we're sort of treading new ground a little bit. No, hang on, I've messed that up. Takeoff ability. Oh my god, I can't type. Why is it not auto-completing? There we go. So we do that. And then what we want to do is, once we've begun, we want to start listening to our landing animation. So what do we say? We're going to turn on the colliders when they touch, I guess. Handle landing touch. Void touch. Takeoff ability. Ability. And then that is where we will turn on the colliders. No, you know what? Oh, landing wing. We're going to do it on wing touch. We will turn on the colliders and we'll make them targetable. And then once we've done that, wing touch, we will remove the listener. Okay. I don't know how robust this is, like, if I call this multiple times and it's no longer on this event, if C# will completely lose its mind, or if it's fine, it just sort of has like very fail-safe, it just ignores the command basically. But in my experience, C# is usually very strict, so I imagine it will complain. It'll at least throw a warning, but as long as it doesn't throw an exception, it would be fine. So we do that. So that's our landing. It's the other thing we want to do. We want to make it blah, 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 blah. Yeah, this is all fine. So we pass in the takeoff ability. Well, I wonder if that'll work. Let's go find our guy. So everything's disabled. Lands and it's enabled. And now, yep. Takes off. Oh, look, we can still bump into him. You know why? I bet it's because of the nav mesh. He takes off. Yep. We're really starting to get somewhere here. We can walk through it. What happens when he lands on us? Oh, did you see that? He wasn't hidden. He flies up. Look, he's not hidden. Okay. Oh, I didn't add the code back in for... Oh, what? Oh. Well then. That makes sense, doesn't it? So... yeah, we're going to need to do the same thing here. We're going to need to use animation. Animation events. So we want to have our takeoff ability. And we will pass that in. Takeoff ability, okay. And then when we begin, we want to do it before the animation trigger itself. We want to do takeoff ability on takeoff animation end, handle takeoff and oh man, where am I? Void. And this will be we will hide, and then we will remove and I mean, we could technically, yeah, use this. I mean, these times should be much closer to the animation times, so the actions actually line up. So if I go to this and I go to take off, it's 50 frames. See, this is the problem, is it's measured in frames. So it reckons a second, 1.2 seconds. So if we go to our guy, let's just test that this works first before we need to pass our thing in. Okay. What is happening? Oh, okay, yeah. It's looking pretty invisible. Yeah. Cool. So we fix that little thing. But I want to make the times line up. So if we go here, instead of 5, let's make this like 1.35. And then landing something similar, maybe 1.5. Damn, even like, I don't think this cast duration is really important. So now he basically takes off and immediately lands. So it actually disables the particle system, which is not really what we want. Yeah, just debating whether we deal with that now or leave it. Because the way we can do that is, screw it, we'll just leave it. Fix it later, that's a polish thing. Alright, so he can take off and he can land. That's most of the work done, I think. That's like the hard stuff done. Now we can do the cool stuff. The cool stuff is making him drop crap and kill everyone.